Oh, it's lovely out here. It's so good to be out here. Look at those swans. Aren't they gorgeous? Look at the size of their wings. They could be anywhere in the world. But they're here. Well, Charlie and Sarah and Alan are at school. I should say I miss them. And I do. It's hard to get a minute to yourself. I might get 10, if I'm lucky, before I see the mast of the shamrock or the phoenix or the lights of bobbing over the top of them trees. Those trees. And then I have to call Tommy for to come and open the lock. Look, I could do it. I know I could. I'm no wee slip of a thing. Long day stealing turf down at the moss took care of that. But sure, he's not here to have it. He's dozing there. I really have to keep going on at him for sit and take a rest. But he seldom does. It's hard work. He checks the gates and he oils the hinges and them books. He keeps those books so meticulous. Not a lighter gets by that's not recorded or doesn't pay its toll, and you can't say that for every lockkeeper from the point to the basin. I'm coming on at the writing. And the numbers too, mind. I can give a wee hand an odd time if he allows it. But sure, look, he never leaves. We never leave. I'm not complaining, mind. Not. But midnight before he got to bed last night, Francie Owens and the Shamrock. 11:30. 11:30. Sure, if the through navigation heard of that, Tommy could lose his position and where would we be then? And him, as usual, not entirely sober. You could hear him singing from the mirror bridge. Amore. What, when it's at home, is amore, says I.
It's opera. It's Italian. All them Italian boys be singing it down in Dublin. There's all sorts in Dublin nowadays. That's where the big money is. Sure, aren't them all after our bricks and our weaving and our pottery and our clay pipes and the whole lot?
Tommy says them boys do go writing regular to Dublin and Liverpool from Belfast and Newry. And here's me, thanking the good Lord that I got from Dry Tracy to Coalisland. Imagine that. Not a bit slow, Francie? Leaving off a wee drop of coal and a bit of pottery on the boat from Belfast on the way home. Such a linen tablecloth I got the week before last Christmas. Och, the wee designs on it, and it washes like a ribbon. Them girls in the factory, they've some hands on them. Tommy always has a good word for them all, you know. A jibe for the lighter men, and a compliment, appropriate mind, for the women. A couple of boiled sweets for the children. And he even keeps an odd bone for their terriers. Ratters, the men call them. It's no wonder he's so well liked round here. He can be so quiet when he comes in that, well, I hope it's not mean of me to say it, but and I don't mean anything against him, mind, but sometimes I wonder if he hasn't wasted all his words, his good wishes and thoughts to them that come up the canal. But sure, it's his life. And it was always for him. That's what he wanted. His father, James, he kept this position for him. There's a good living here, son. Don't you spoil it. No post for an idle man, neither. Tom's mother, Honor, was her name. It's a strange name for round here. She often looked sad, I thought, as old James pointed and stood to his full height to talk of the importance of the job of a lockkeeper. And him that took to the drink in the later years. Tom says he wasn't well. I really want Charlie to stay at his schooling. He's so bright. Master says that in his sums and his reading, he's no match for any other child in the schoolroom. The story read for Master Davin last week about the Swan family that lived in the canal, making them talk and all. It's so comical. The mummy swan prattling on, giving out, not coming up for air, so to speak. The daddy swan, he's nodding his big wise head and his long neck, saying very little. And all the wee baby swans following behind until they stop foraging for, I don't know what they eat. Until they pull into the shelter at the corner of the canal and the wee baby swans, they tuck their heads under their mother and the father swan's wings. Of course, he wouldn't read it out for the whole class. Master Devlin had to do it. Oh, mortified he was. When he came home that day, he was raging. I'm not going back to my schooling. I'm going to work with my daddy tomorrow. Look at the flowers a bit here in May. The wee bluebells nodding their head. The yellow primroses down there by the bank, and bulrushes, big white. And then the cow parsley down there at the edge of the canal. Beautiful. Tommy keeps it well south back, 50 yards to the Moor Bridge and 50 yards towards the town there. Sure, if I didn't cajole and beg him, I'll have all them wildflowers cut back too. He keeps the house neat and painted. Isn't it gorgeous? And to think what I grew up in on Beg. Mud floor, not a straight wall. And the wind blew through it that bad, sure. Not even the mice would stay in it. It's a lifeline, this canal. My own way out of poverty, I suppose. If it wasn't for it, sure, I'd still be stooling turf and dressing rags, farming for some Egypt. His land's under the water for half the year. I'll not deny it. I had it in mind before I met Tommy. This house. Slate roof. Straight walls. Wee porch. And the lovely yellow roses that grow all around the front door. Daddy would have taken me up to the island in odd time. That's when I first seen this house. So, is that right? So, I wish I had the schooling my children are getting now. Too much to be done about the house. Don't you be codding yourself with that crack. I was 10 the first time I seen Tommy. Oh, I was raging. Me like a scarecrow and head on me like a wind bush. I was so cross at Mummy. I feel bad about that now, God rest her. But not a brush through my hair for a week or more. Not that it would have mattered. When the shamrock came through, where was Tommy? Only hiding behind the opening gates. I said hello to him, but he just put the head down and looked at his shoes. He didn't even have shoes whenever I first met Tommy. While James and Daddy, they knew each other. They were cut from the same cloth, talking about the price of sand and bricks and coal and drowning down in the basin. Parish priest rigged out some drunk man from the altar. The work it needs done down in the basin. Strike and drum glass mines. Quarter of an hour they'd be turning the paddles to open the gates. They'd open slow and steady, let the water in, the boat rise up. I'd soon forget about my bare feet when I heard the rushing of the water. I felt the boat rise up. It's like we went up to the town to sell eggs and cabbages, carrots, potatoes, or just whatever we'd left from the market. Truth be told, I love going up for a bit of crack. I love the banter and the singing and the storytelling. More often than not, we drink. Mummy, she used to send me up thinking that having a young one would stop him going to the pubs. Didn't matter a bit. I used to be drifting round the pub and the old maid would be pressing pennies into my hand and telling me, "You're a good girl and you look after your dad." Sometimes I'd get bored and I'd head out down to the moored boats. I like talking to the lighter men's children. The boats looked so cosy and snug. A lot of the times some of the mummies would come out across the plank to the basin to where I was. They'd bring me a lovely sweet cup of tea and maybe a wee bit of toast. They'd have a worried look on their face and say to me, "Oh, your daddy will be back soon." And they often invited me on board, but I was neither frightened nor lonely. I just loved it. I just loved being up at the town. Hearing the voices and the singing and shouting coming out of the public houses. The lapping of the water against the boats. And the lovely warm white glow from the basin with the reflection of the moon. It's just lovely. Tommy had to pull some poor devil out of the lock last week. Wee Margaret. She was never going to live long, you know. She drank. She drank more than many a man about. And that's saying something for Coalisland. Mummy said she'd a wee want. Daddy would have said, not in front of Mummy now. But she was a beautiful girl in her younger years. And brains too. I says to him, "Sure, why is she like that now?" And he says, "Something sad happened to her when she was a young woman." He never said what. She had some tongue in her head. Never went to mass, slept here and slept there. This night she was walking up the line, singing. Oh my goodness, the noise of it, I thought somebody's been throttled. her coming, tottering, waving like the mast of a lighter. Again, I was afraid of her falling in, so I went up to steady her. And up she stood, as straight as an ash tree, like some lady of a fine manner.
Oh, young Fitzgerald, you've done well for yourself, haven't you? Got your lovely wee house. Oh, it's a lovely house, isn't it? Oh, to have a house with a hearth and a stoop. You got your wee house, didn't you? Oh, you did?
Just when I was about to give her what for and tell her what she was, she took a sigh and it sounded like her soul was just about to crack. And then she kind of collapsed. I caught her. Oh, she was like a child. She stared through me towards the curve of the canal. You could see the house peeping through the trees. Oh, a lovely home. What a lovely home. Have your babies all close to you. All your babies. And at that, she pushed me off, wiped back the long black hair from her face, and away she went. I asked her to come in for a cup of tea, but I begged her. But she'd hear none of it. Away she went down the lane into the dark of the night. She could have stayed the night. She's not a bad creature. And I wouldn't have minded, and Tommy would have been all right if she had been there when he woke in the morning. People would have said she had an eye for the men and more. I says to Dad, look at the state of her. Sure, what man would go near her? He says, no. Oh, you want to see her when she was a young woman. The loveliest long dark hair. Her laugh. Oh, she had a beautiful singing voice. More than equal for any man at the reading, at the books, and the wit and the brains. She could talk for herself too, you know. She would have been a fine wife or a fine gentleman. Wherever she got the learning from. It was all right to go up the canal, through the locks and that. But at Cart, oh, I was mortified going out in that Cart. It was like something that the tankers, they wouldn't even take it out at the dead of night. Oh. I remember her back then too. Disgrace of a woman. Oh, she'd be roaring and singing like a banshee. Women, they'd be steering their children away from her in the town. And the men, oh, sure, they'd be laughing at her. She'd always noticed Da. And she'd call him softly, you know, and then he'd colour. Eyes would fill up. He'd give her a couple of shillings, and I'm telling you, he couldn't afford to give money to anybody. When I got to the age where I was able to feel pride and shame and snobbery, I suppose, I was terrified. Absolutely terrified that Tommy would see her talking to my dad. Oh. He'd tell me not to tell Ma. And I didn't. Look, it was a secret, like, hidden thing, but it never felt wrong. And we'd go home and, well, him full as a shock would drink. And sure, most of the money gone from the market that day, and would be too late for the later men to give us a lift. So would walk down the towpath past this lockkeeper's cottage. And he'd be singing slow airs about love lost and regret and grief. And the moon, it would follow us from the basin all the way down the canal to the high bridge and then to home. One morning fair to take the air down by Blackwater's side. 'Twas gazing all around me was the Irish light I spied all through the first